The following is a production of Frank DeFreitas and the Internet Museum of Holography.
Hello everyone, this is Frank DeFreitas and welcome to HoloTalk for the week of November 23rd. And happy Thanksgiving this week in case you happen to celebrate this holiday. If you're a student or educator, or someone who has an interest in making holograms as a hobby in your own home studio or lab, I have got the most incredible news for you on the show tonight. If this news doesn't rock the holography world, then nothing will. You may also want to get a pencil and pad ready to take down some of the information that you will learn about tonight. I am holding in my hand a 4x5-inch white light reflection hologram, which is the same style or type of hologram that you see on the walls of countless hologram shops across the country. It is crisp, bright, and exhibits a great amount of depth. It's on Agfa plates. Now, what makes this hologram special is that it was not made with your standard helium neon or other gas laser, which are lasers that have been the standard for making holograms for over 30 years. What makes this hologram special is that it was made using a standard, off-the-shelf, and out-of-the-box $49 laser pointer. I'll repeat that. This hologram was made using a standard, off-the-shelf, and out-of-the-box $49 laser pointer. The person who achieved this is Steve Michael, who is my guest tonight on HoloTalk. Steve is going to tell us all the details of using a laser pointer to make holograms so that you, too, can now get involved with holography at a fraction of the cost of what is the most expensive part of any holographic setup, the laser. Now, before we begin the interview, let me give you some specific information on this laser pointer that Steve is going to tell us about during the interview. It is called the Rocket Laser Pointer, Rocket, R-O-C-K-E-T, and can be found in the Edmund Scientific catalog. Edmund Scientific is located in Barrington, New Jersey, and they can be reached at the following telephone number: area code 609-573-6250. Area code 609-573-6250. They will send you a catalog if you call and ask for one. Ask for their latest optics catalog. That's the one that I have that I found the laser pointer in. The laser pointer, or rocket laser as it's known in the catalog, its ordering number is D54006. That's D as in dog, 54006. And here are the specs. It is a Class 3A laser pointer. Power output is 3 to 5 milliwatts at 635 nanometers, which is very close to the Heaney at 633 nanometers. And it's also very close to the power of many of the lasers that you find in the classroom. It runs on 2 LR44 alkaline batteries and gets 2.5 hours of continuous operation from these batteries. It also has an adjustable focus lens and a momentary on-off switch. Now, as many of you may remember, last year I ran a series of webcam nights which you could log onto the site and see a presentation in the studio. I had a similar laser diode that I demonstrated, which was battery operated, that I had taken the diode out of the housing and hooked it up to a Radio Shack power supply to run the diode off of standard household current. It may be possible to do this with this laser pointer as well, saving you the money of having to replace batteries all the time. by just plugging it into the wall. We'll have more on this later as we continue to check in with Steve to see what's new from time to time here on HoloTalk. So why is this such a big deal? Well, it's certainly not a big deal if you're working with a 20-watt argon laser system, but for kids with school projects, teachers in the classroom, and many hobbyists and amateurs on tight budgets that really want to get involved with holography but could not do so, this is going to revolutionize this type of holography. The most common emails I get here in the studio, can I make a hologram using a laser pointer? In the past, I've had to write back saying that you can view a laser hologram with a laser pointer, but because of the short coherence length of laser diodes, you could not make a hologram until now. So let's move on to the interview with Steve Michael and get the details. He's also going to have information up at his site on laser pointer holography, and you can find a link to his site right on the HoloTalk page. Now, I won't be coming back on after the interview, so I will thank you now for tuning in to HoloTalk and hope that you continue to come back each week for new and exciting shows just like this one. Here's the interview with Steve. This is Frank DeFreitas for HoloTalk. Let's get rolling, and we'll start off with your website, which is an incredibly well-done site for amateur and hobbyist holography, especially with the guide and everything that you have on there. How did you get started with the website? How long has it been up? How much work did you put into it? Could you let listeners know a little bit about that?
Yeah, I wrote a couple papers in 1990 and 91 in the Journal of Biological Photography, and I wrote these papers so that beginners in the field of biological sciences might want to use holography for their recording medium. And one paper was called How to Build a Holography System, and the other one was Producing Transmission and Reflection Holograms. So I decided right now I'm working on an internet team, on a graphic arts team, and I decided it'd be a good chance for me to set up a website and transfer that information so the rest of the world could see it. And I did that I finished it in August of 96, so it's been up for a little over 2 years. And it took me about 600 hours to produce all the graphics. I had to do those from scratch, as you know.
The background graphic that you have on there, the laser pattern, did you do that?
Yes.
Is that the laser being sent through like a piece of plexiglass or something?
You've got it. That's exactly right.
That's a great shot. Technically, it's a great photograph.
Oh, thank you. Yes, I projected it onto just a piece of white cardboard, set my camera up so that it was in line with the direction that the pattern was being projected to the screen. And I have a linear translation stage I was sitting on, and just by slightly moving the plastic, I could change the pattern at will. And I had like 36 or 40 different patterns.
Wow.
That I photographed, and then, I thought it into Photoshop and set it up for digital use.
Yeah, usually that saturates the film, those types of shots, but that's just like right on the money.
Sure.
You have hologram art where you sell some of your own editions too, right?
Yes.
What pieces do you have on there right now?
My original work was in the biological sciences, so I have a human skull and a sagittal section of a human brain. And these were actual, real specimens. And then I did one of a lunar lander on the moon, which was a plastic model, and the landscape I created using clay.
The guide itself, is that something that you wrote as the site progressed, or did you already have that written and you just put it up?
Yes.
That's almost like a holography manual.
Yes, I wrote that. That was the material I wrote in 1990 and 91.
Mm-hmm.
And I just transcribed it over to HTML.
Where do you have your lab? Is it in your home?
Yes, it's in my basement.
And what type of a table are you working on?
Well, it's really interesting. I have a glass table.
Oh, really?
Yes. I've progressed from wooden tables to sandbox to marble, and now I have a 5 by 8 foot, 3/4 inch thick glass table.
That's very interesting.
And it's all gravity mounted.
The holograms that you sent me were produced on that table, right?
Yes, they were. It's very stable, very rigid.
Now, here's what everyone's waiting to hear. I received, as I said at the beginning of the show, 2 holograms from Steve. A single beam reflection hologram and a single beam laser transmission hologram. And these were really nice holograms. And Steve, you did them with a laser pointer.
That's correct.
Now, my first question is this just off the shelf, or did you do something to the laser pointer?
No, this is one just off the shelf.
With batteries?
With batteries, 3 of them.
No kidding.
Yes. And I bought the batteries you can buy at Radio Shack.
Yeah. So it wasn't like a laser that you took the diode out of the pointer and hooked the diode up to a power supply or anything like that.
That's correct.
Just out of the box.
Right.
And you probably put tape or something to make it stay on, or did you have a switch or something?
Yeah, it's one of those momentary on switches. And what I did was it was clamped in one of these vice clamps, the actual laser was, and I had the button turned in such a way that I could put a pencil in another clamp and push the pencil against that button and hold it in place.
Wow.
Now, these things only last for like 2.5 hours, the batteries.
Yeah.
So you kind of have to work fast and your setup, and then you turn your laser off and let it rest. And I generally have several extra batteries ready to go because when I actually make my exposure, I want fresh batteries in there because it'll give me the power I needed.
Yeah. And how long do you leave that laser on for? I mean, most of the gas lasers, like the helium and neon, they really say how important it is to allow that laser to reach thermal stability. How long would you say the laser pen was on for before you would do your first exposure?
Approximately 5 minutes.
No kidding. And what power laser?
This is a 3 to 5 milliwatt.
Operating at, do you know the wavelength?
Yes, it's at 640 nanometers. It's 640 nanometers.
These holograms display an incredible amount of depth.
Yes, I was very interested in finding out what the actual coherent length of these were. I had done some research and got some specs from companies on the more powerful diode lasers, like the 1, 2, and 5 watt lasers. All of their specifications say that the coherent length of these things are around 3 to 4 millimeters.
Mm-hmm.
And plus the fact that they're randomly polarized. And I was concerned about that and being able to make a hologram. So I was a little discouraged that diode lasers would even work.
Exactly. I mean, the emails that I get, always getting emails, you probably get them too.
Yeah,
Can I do a hologram with a laser pen? And it's always been, well, you may be able to do something like a postage stamp or something like that, but you would never get any depth.
Mm-hmm. Well, I decided to not believe what I read. And what I did was I went to Edmund Scientific and got their rocket laser pointer.
Okay, the rocket laser pointer from right out of the catalog.
Right out of the catalog. They have numerous other ones, and the wavelengths vary depending on which one you get. Some of them are 670 nanometers. Some are 650, 675.
With the same model, or
no,
with
different model.
Different? Yes, okay.
Right, and so I got the one that was closest to 6328 for the film I was using, because I was using 8075.
Oh, okay.
And so now this laser, by the way, costs $45. So right there, we've brought the cost down from a 5 milliwatt helium neon from $800 down to like $45. But when I got it here in my lab, first thing I checked was to see if it was polarized. And sure enough, it was.
No kidding.
It just blew me away. I didn't think that was true. Well, the next day, I went to Radio Shack and checked 2 of their other models, 2 models that they have there, and they were both polarized.
Hmm.
So I'm thinking, I don't know whether all laser pointers are now, but at least 3 models are.
Yeah.
And then the next thing was I set up a Michelson interferometer to see if I could get fringe patterns.
Yeah.
And I was amazed right off the bat.
Wow.
With the path lengths being 0, I got some really nice high contrast fringes.
I bet you thought you were really off and running then.
Sure, yes. And then I decided I wanted to find out what the coherent length was. So I started to move one of the mirrors, and I got it all the way out to 10 inches.
Oh, my goodness.
And I was still getting fringe patterns, very sharp.
Mm-hmm.
As you can see, that hologram I sent you is probably 3 centimeters deep.
Oh, yeah, of the horse, yeah.
Of the unicorn?
Yeah, easy.
Mm-hmm.
Easy. It looks just like you shot it with a helium neon laser.
Yeah.
In fact, I would go out on the limb and say it's better than a lot of the classroom laser holograms that I've seen as far as brightness and depth.
Well, I put the object as close as I could to the film, so the path differences were minimal.
Yeah.
The other problem, though, with the diode laser is that it doesn't have a circular beam profile.
Oh, I see, yeah.
It's rectangular,
Mm.
or at least the one I have. And I found that, by the way, this particular diode laser pointer has a lens in front of the diode, so you can focus it to a sharp point, out to 100 feet.
Mm-hmm.
And if you actually do focus that to infinity, you get to a sharp point from the laser pointer all the way out to that distance. But what I had to do was I had to adjust that lens such a way behind my microscope objective, which was going to diverge the beam to cover the whole 4x5 plate in such a way that I got uniformity across the plate. And that was a little difficult. I mean, I even used the pinhole to try to clean it up some.
Yeah.
But trying to put, it was like trying to put a rectangle through a circle.
Yeah.
And I was getting diffraction effects.
Yeah. What did your exposure time run on these shots?
It was 1 minute for the transmission and 2 minutes for the reflection.
Oh. Mm-hmm.
So that's pretty short.
Yeah. I'm trying to think. It's been a while since I've had a 3 or 5 milliwatt Heaney, but I'm trying to think of what the single beam exposure times would be on the 8075 HD with the Heaney.
Well, I went and set up my 5 milliwatt helium neon, which my power meter was saying was operated at about 6.2 milliwatts.
Mm-hmm.
And my exposure times were around 2 seconds with a single beam.
That's interesting. Why do you think the difference there? It's not that much difference in the power.
Well, it could be the beam profile
Mm-hmm.
being spread out further that way.
I see.
It certainly didn't look as bright because I did take a power meter reading on the diode laser when I had new batteries and I was getting 3.3. Now, that's about a 3 milliwatt difference.
Yeah. Which is half of what you were seeing with the Heaney, but yet more than twice the time on the exposure.
Right.
In any case, it's a wonderful job.
Oh, thank you.
A beautiful hologram. I mean, that laser transmission hologram is gorgeous. And the reflection hologram, as soon as the box was handed to me, I opened the box up, and with the lamp that I have on my desk, I saw the image right away.
I did try a two-beam setup, and that was very difficult. As a matter of fact, I wasn't successful in getting the plate covered uniformly and also being able to uniformly cover the object. It's, again, a function of that lens in front of the diode, plus having to split the beam, cut your power in half in each of them. And so that's a bit difficult. But for the student that wants to do a single beam for a science project, it works great.
Well, Steve, I'm going to go out on a limb, and I'm going to say that probably what you've just done could very well revolutionize holography, not only in this country, but around the world.
Well, that's interesting. You mean in terms of...
In terms of making it available to more people who will get involved with it and continue to grow in their interest and put in studios and their own places to do holograms?
Well, that's what I was hoping for. If this was successful, which it was, it brings costs way down. And you don't have to have a big table like mine either.
And you know how many people want to do holograms using a laser pointer.
Right.
You know, I mean, you see the emails. I see them all the time. Imagine now that you can write back to those people and tell them, yes, you can do a hologram with a laser pointer.
Yes, it's a great feeling.
Yeah, it's incredible. Well, I want to congratulate you, Steve. It's not too often that we get somebody on the show that has done what you've done. And I admire you because you didn't listen to what other people were telling you, and you just went ahead and did it anyway, which I really like.
Thanks.
I want to thank you for coming on, and I want to tell the listeners that you can go to the 3dimagery.com, and I'll have a link for that. Is it www first?
Yeah.
Okay, so we've got www.3dimagery.com. You'll see a link for it right on the HoloTalk page. You can click on that link and go over to the site. And let me ask you this before we close it out. Do you think you're going to put anything on your website about your experiment and results?
Most definitely.
Most definitely, yeah.
Yes, that will happen in the next couple months. And one other thing, I had talked to you about finding a cheaper film, too.
Oh, okay.
And
yes, that's right.
Yes.
You were working with the...
TechPad.
Yeah.
That didn't turn out, and I did several exposures using different angles between the beams, and that's pretty restrictive. I mean, if you try to get down to 10-degree difference to keep your spatial frequency down, then you're not very practical anymore. But I did call Kodak today and found out that Kodak still produces the SO253 holographic film, and that's in sheets, 4x5 sheets, comes 25 in a box for $61.55. So we're looking at less expense there, too.
Yeah. And in smaller quantities than you have to buy a lot of the other films as well.
Right. And if you call Kodak at 800-242-2424, they'll send out the specs of that film.
Well, Steve, thank you very much. Hang on the line for a minute. After I close this out, I'm going to pick up the phone. Okay?
Thank you.
Okay.